back to another episode of Two Sisters of a Certain Age, conversations with a therapist
and a doctor.
I'm your co-host, Judy Grant, licensed marriage and family therapist.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Sophia Grant, board-certified pediatrician and board-certified child abuse pediatrician.
So, Candy, before we jump in, huge thanks to you for my birthday gift.
Mm-hmm.
My birthday was in March, but in May we got to enjoy a very special event, and I'm so grateful for you taking me. It was just absolutely phenomenal.
Where did we go?
We saw Country Carter.
Cowboy Carter.
Country.
Sorry, what's wrong with you?
We saw Cowboy Carter Beyonce at the new SoFi Stadium here in LA, and I was stunned.
Mm-hmm. It was
mouth open, eyes wide, just stunned.
Yeah.
The performance was just, I'd never seen her before.
Yeah, it was my fourth Beyonce concert.
Your fourth.
Every time it's just absolutely fabulous.
And a huge shout out for all of our Cowboy Carter fans who show up in these amazing outfits.
Yes, yeah.
And that's a whole scene in and of itself.
Exactly.
But it was just a phenomenal night. So thank you for my birthday.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. So the best part about that was I got to experience it with you. It wasn't just something that I gave you and told you to enjoy. I got to be there with you. So that was special for me also.
Yeah, that was so great. So great.
This morning, it's going to be conversations with a therapist and two doctors because we have Dr. Naima Olatunji on the line. And I've known Naima for close to 22 years. We were pregnant at the same time with our last kids, and I had my baby in the car, and Naima, she had planned a home birth, but you get supplies for the home birth, and they didn't arrive on time. Oh. So that we have that in common. My baby just graduated, and what's going on with your baby, Naima?
Oh my goodness. He is in his senior year to become a commercial airline pilot.
Wow.
No,
that's fantastic.
When you think of your baby in a big plane, what do you think? That's so crazy to me.
So he's wanted to become a pilot for literally years. And so he's been working towards this since the beginning of high school. And he had told us, somewhere in middle school, elementary school. And I was like, yeah, because who's a pilot? Who do we know those things?
Yeah.
And because he persisted and really that desire just continued to grow and blossom. And I found an organization here in Atlanta that is absolutely incredible, aviation career enrichment, otherwise known as ACE. And it was founded by a Black pilot almost 40 years ago.
Wow.
Who looked around and saw in the entirety of the industry, aviation, that there was less than 1% of us. And he was like, how do we correct that? We need to do something about it. And he partnered up with some incredible aviators, and they designed a curriculum that starts as early as second grade, and they go into schools and they introduce themselves. So the kids then come to what they call Saturday ground school, and they start learning as early as second grade.
Wow.
And here Kenan comes, he's already a freshman in high school, and he feels left behind because there are fifth graders who can tell you all about a design of an airplane and different weather patterns and what the effects. And he's like, I'm so behind. And he worked really, really hard. But I got to tell you, there was a point in which that I was like, if you hear, welcome to Delta Flight 6219, this is your pilot, Kenan, pull the cord, because this is the kid who won't even read, right? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
And to watch him flourish over these years, oh my goodness, that's the passion that I did not realize that is necessary to take some of these kids from feeling apathetic and disconnected from their education. That's what pulls them through, is their desire, is their thing that they're passionate about. So that's what we should be focusing on in education, and not cramming down this one size fits all. Because now he's a reader, now he's a studier, now he is an excellent pilot. He's already got like 3 of his certifications, like he can already fly solo, and he does all of that. And I just think that that is incredible. So that is my one desire for education, is that
Right.
we really do focus on what lights these kids up.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think this could be a whole episode, because I think we've all experienced pieces of that with our children. And I know for my son, like, regular public school wasn't doing it for him. As soon as he moved into his small little school, where people actually were interested in him as a human being, tapped into the best way for him to be taught and to learn, the kid flourished.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
wow.
And that is so incredible. And I have to say that I had so much in life happens, and I totally forgot that we were pregnant at the
Yep.
same time. And I
Yes, we
think,
were.
like, how incredible a friendship for 2 decades, over
Mhm.
2 decades. And for us to, when we see each other, which is not that frequent, it always feels like we're just picking up where we
Exactly.
left off.
Exactly.
And what a pleasure to be here and talking to you too
Thank you.
today,
Thank
this
you.
morning.
So I wanted to have Naima on the show because I have a lot of friends, but you are a friend who I feel you are always evolving.
Mm,
And you have gone through many, many phases of your life. When I met you, you were a mother of 2, now mother of 3. Um, you went to chiropractic school. You're an author, and your life has unfolded. And maybe it hasn't been what you thought you needed, but it has unfolded. I see you evolve. It's like a blooming. And I
Mm-hmm.
want you to just share a little bit about your evolution.
mm. First, let me just say thank you. Thank you for recognizing that. It took me literally until maybe, it was earlier this year that I realized, in creating a curriculum for my new business, that reinvention is the thing that I have been doing my entire
Entire
life.
time.
And I didn't realize that, because now I'm a reinvention coach, and people are like, what is that? And like, and what qualifies you? And
Mm-hmm.
mostly that's some of that, of your own imposter
Right,
syndrome that
right.
you have. And I was like, that's a really good question. What qualifies me? And it wasn't until earlier this year where I really sat down and went through it, and I was like, my goodness. And so for you to say that, what I think is really incredible is that we see each other, right? Like, we spend time observing, and in the observations, when you truly take the time to look with more than just your eyes, I think that what we can see is the depth of humanity and the complexities of who it is that we are, and how we show up, and how we evolve, and what we let go of and release in our throughout our lives, and the necessity of it. And I think that I became really, really good at it
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because I was raised believing a lie. And I had spent my entire, young life trying to figure out how I fit in and mold into a character that was never me, and it never
Right.
fit, and
Mm-hmm.
and not recognizing myself in any of my caretakers of my family, having blonde hair, blue-eyed siblings, and being like, something in this doesn't fit, and it's, clearly me, and what does that mean, and what does that look like? And then just normalizing all of that into adulthood, like, oh, everybody does that. And it wasn't until, gosh, I had to have been 35 maybe, and I was sitting next to you at a Mocha Mom potluck, sharing something because somebody made a joke about, something that was in Black culture, and everybody was laughing and I wasn't, and you looked at me and I was like, oh, that was before I was Black. Right. And just this idea of sharing that story with you, and you were like, that's not normal, actually. That's like, and I was like, really? And that's when the idea began. But that was 35. Fast forward, it wasn't until I was 49 where I saw that it was an important part of my history that I needed to tell to be able to heal through. But I think that overall, I just I approach life in that same sense, where I think that we are always evolving, and we are always becoming, and living life is a verb. And to the greatest degree possible, what is it that we can release and let go of so that we can emerge into this next version of ourselves? And I just assumed that everybody did that, and everybody looked at life that way. And I'm always surprised when I see people, adults, women who are living in a version of their life that's decades old. It no longer fits them, and they are sad and miserable and not knowing how to get out of that place. And I think that that is the thing that excites me the most about doing the work that I do, because I think that, again, what we were talking about, education, like, what's the thing that gives you the greatest amount of passion that you do for free, that calls you forward? Like, that's the thing that you're evolving into, because education is this entire walk on this planet for however long it lasts for each one of us.
Now, can you just share a little bit about your pre-Black life and your post-Black life?
I love that there's a pre and a
Pre,
post.
a pre and a post.
Yes. So I was raised until I was 18, believing that I was white, in an entirely white family. Initially, we lived in rural Utah, so on a farm, and there was nobody around. So it wasn't like, we had all of this community around. We around us. We didn't. And the man that's on my birth certificate is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man, and I believed it, of course. And as I grew and got older, and we continued to live in predominantly white neighborhoods and communities, and went to all white schools, and I didn't have a frame of reference. But I could tell you 1000% that I was different. Of course, I knew that I was different. And I had a older sister who was not the happiest person. And I was her focus for her rage. And so, she reminded me on a daily basis that I was not wanted or loved or part of this family. And it was because of my difference. And so I always knew that. Oftentimes people think, well, like, how could you not know you're Black? Because kids don't have a language for things that they do not understand. I did not have context. It wasn't like we had Black neighbors and I was like, ooh, I look like them. Because if you look at me, while you can tell that I'm not white, you're certainly not going to immediately think, that's a Black woman for sure. I have this racially ambiguous look to me. I have been told as I have traveled around in the world. And so that was my life up until I was 18. And then when the lie no longer could continue, because of an event, I was threatened to be lynched, and in a new community that we moved to in Arizona. And I think my mom at that point knew that she could no longer keep up the facade, and that it was now about physical safety. And so she had to tell me. And so that next evolution of me reinventing myself and what does
Mm-hmm.
that look like, and
Mm-hmm.
coming into college, I fully embraced being a Black woman. Like, I became blackety black. Went to,
Didn't you
USC,
major in
and
Black Studies?
yes, I created my own major. They had no major, no ethnic studies, no Black, no African American. They didn't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was so committed with my big ring in my nose and my dookie braids in my hair, and, joined the new Black Panther Party, like, I was all in,
You know,
all in.
it's the light skinned folks who are always like, mm-hmm.
Listen, let me tell you how you couldn't tell me that I was not the darkest skinned Black
Mm-hmm.
person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I even to this day see myself in pictures and go, oh, like, it doesn't, in my heart, that is
Mm-hmm.
not what I see or how I live. And so, yeah, from absolutely being unclear to being the president
Right.
of the Black Student Union.
Mm-hmm.
As a therapist, I think of, how identity is like, it's the core of who we are.
Yeah.
And so for those 18 years, without being able to articulate it, without being able to be validated, that identity was in question for you, it sounds like. And
Yeah.
the sister reminding you every day that you were different, but not, like you said, having the tools or the context to really understand what that meant. Um, you know, it feels like traumatizing.
Yeah.
And for that to happen, at 18 years old, like, I don't know. I'm just going into my therapeutic piece of me and thinking about how, important our identities are to us,
Yeah.
and then not really understanding what that is, how, life shaking that
Yeah.
can be. And then you, as you said, being the blackety black, it's like, I'm embracing all of this because I
Yeah.
didn't have it before. So now
Yeah.
I am all in,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way that other young Black people didn't ever feel they had to be, because they
Yeah.
always knew who they were. But now it's like, now that I know, it's given me permission to really be fully ensconced in this culture.
And I think that is not only is that the so important for us to recognize that identity is how not only we define ourselves, but how we show up when we operate in the world.
Hmm.
But it's also understanding how you fit into the larger scheme,
Right.
and social constructs of, the societies that we live in, and these rules that are in place long before you ever, enter into the scene. And so my mother was Italian. And so I was raised with her side of the family, and my family was extremely racist.
Mm.
And so when my mother told me, I was like, wait, what? And what does that mean? And now do I have to choose? And so there was this very significant divergence for me where I lived two lives. My parents were not at my wedding. I married a Black man. We met, and really our relationship was built on what we were both currently studying at the time, which was African civiliz- African civilizations, throughout history, and what did that mean? And so we were both, and he was born, raised Black, and always was very clear about that identity. And here I was, making up for
Hmm.
lost time, so to
Hmm.
speak. And so what we came together was very strong principles of how we wanted to live our lives, and how
Hmm.
we were going to raise our children, and really just firmly adopting and embracing and embodying like African culture. And so those two things were very different. I had a very white family. And then this identity that I am choosing and walking into, and how those things, I just couldn't see how they went together. And so for a very long time, there were subjects that my mom, who was literally one of my best friends, we didn't engage in because she didn't understand. And so this idea of how that identity, diverges, or the possibility when you don't have this sort of consistent understanding of not only who you are but how you show up. And I think that was the other thing. We're going to fast forward all the way to the other side. When I have college age children, I am so excited because I want them to go to HBCUs, because my understanding of all of my friends who have attended them and what they have gained is truly this solid, not only understanding of who they are, but being loved and appreciated for who they are, being celebrated by being Black, being really just sort of embraced, but in a way of a caretaking way, because their instructors see them and they appreciate them as an extension of them, and then want to support and hold them, and their desires and their goals. And so that's something that has been on my mind and my heart for a long time. It's like, how do we then, really support and love on young Black children who may or may not have that strong sense, in a world that does not, in this American culture that does not celebrate and honor who they are.
Yeah, I went to Meharry, which is an HBCU for medical school, and for the first time in my entire academic career, I felt seen. It took me to be 22, 23 to feel seen and to be noticed. And I think that's part of the reason why 2/3 of my children attended HBCUs. And the one who didn't said it's good she didn't, because she would have had an inflated ego. Because HBCUs support you in a way that you feel empowered to go into any room and know that you're smart enough and know that you belong. And, having graduated from a PWI, it was doubt, questioning. It wasn't the cheerleader that I got when I was at Meharry. So I just want to circle back a little bit and talk about when your mother finally told you. You said she was your best friend. How did you feel? How did that affect your relationship?
I felt betrayed and numb and really, really confused. Part of me, when she first told me, there's this part of me that felt like a sigh of relief. And I talked about a bit about this, in the book, where as humans, that the complexities that make us up, we can simultaneously hold differing emotions that compete at the same time of wanting to really just love her and protect her. Because when she was telling me, I could see the pain, like what it was costing her to share this information. And even though I was 18, I could see about how the sort of the range of emotions that she was experiencing and going through and retelling this. And I also understood a bit, but being her child, I wasn't raised by her parents, but I could understand where that was so difficult for her, because her parents were extremely racist, and that it was also not safe for her to divulge who my biological father was. And here she had this opportunity of this other white man who was willing to marry her, because she already had a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old. And and here this would have been a safe avenue. And so if she could just keep this secret and she could just protect me in a world in 71 in this country where it was not, it wasn't not only embraced to be, to have biracial or intermixed couples, but certainly, like, what was the world that she would imagine that her child would grow up in? And so as she was telling me the story, I felt all of these complex emotions. And that white man that she believed was safe turned out to be one of the most unsafe. He was violent, and I knew what that was like. I experienced it, and I watched, the terror that she endured until she left. And so I became like this self-appointed de facto protector of her. She never asked, but that was the role that I took on. And so here it is, wanting to protect her against her while she's telling me, and simultaneously feeling betrayed by her. And so I think that was where the numbness just came in, because it just was emotional overwhelm. So
Yeah,
now what do I do
it's
with it?
too much to experience all of it, so you just turn it off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it sounds like her intentions were pure. She wanted to protect her baby girl.
Yeah.
But again, family secrets are never a good thing,
Yeah.
because they always come out, and they always become more of an issue when they do come out. But her intention was to keep you safe in a world that she couldn't trust.
Yeah.
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 And I think that that's such a good point in thinking about that, because it wasn't until fast forward I became a mother, and then I understood, right? Like,
Yeah.
it made sense to me when Kamal was born. Like, there was nothing that I knew I wouldn't be willing to do to keep him safe. And
Right.
that forgiveness, true forgiveness, really seeped into how I was going to walk in the world. I was not going to walk in the world being angry with her and bitter or resentful. Instead, I could be compassionate and empathetic for her. Now, still having my own struggles, still trying to
Right.
figure it out,
Yeah.
but that was a choice that I believed that was in the best interest for everyone. And that was true. It really was throughout, the rest of my time that I had with her. I'd never regretted that. I wish that, of course, we could have had some of the conversations that she was never willing to have. She died
Right.
with many things that I wish that I did know, and and it's just the way that I think that that the universe sort of lines up your challenges and what you're here to evolve and walk through and come through, and who you choose and decide to be in the world.
Now, I'm thinking back to when your mother died. I believe I was living in Oklahoma, and you told our little support group, and you were at the funeral, and your relatives are like, "Who are all these black people?" And you got to say, "Those are my friends."
Yeah.
And I just, when I think about the support group that we've been in for 22 years, I'm like, that's how we show up for each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
yeah, go ahead.
it's sisterhood.
Yeah.
It's, like, what I wanted my family to know was, like, these are my
Yeah.
sisters.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is so interesting, because my sister continued to be the person that she was. And there was all of this drama and dissension that she helped stir and really ignite the flame, or reignite the flame, around my mother's death. So here there's all this drama. It was just like very worthy of a Jerry Springer episode,
Yeah.
right? So here's all of this on this one side of me. And on the opposite side are my true sisters, my true sisters who
Sisters by
came and
choice.
they
Yeah.
drove. Yes. to support and love on me and embrace me. And man, it really is how you show up and how you walk in life and who you surround yourself with, right? Like that's really living intentionally.
Yeah.
Me choosing how important being part of our mom circle, being part of and you know, investing in and cultivating those relationships. That's everything
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. Now, Naima, you continued on with your life, and you became a doctor of chiropractic, and you had a practice, and then something happened that caused you to just say, "Wait a second, what am I going to do?" Can you
Yeah.
describe that?
Yeah. Initially, it was when I wrote my book.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that when you write a memoir, when you dig in all of the hurts and the
Mm-hmm.
pains and the trauma, and, right? And you therapize it all, like you go through. The reason the book exists is because of my weekly sessions with my incredible, phenomenal, shout out to Ernest. That man got me through, and
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the book, and then I realized I wasn't the same woman that I was before I wrote the book, and so now I wanted different things, but I was not willing to say it out loud. I had worked so hard and incurred so much debt getting an education and
Mm-hmm.
going back to graduate school and becoming a doctor of chiropractic and working so hard and investing. And here I am a decade later, and I have this practice and these amazing patients, phenomenal team. My practice is doing well, like all the
All
things.
the stuff.
And low key, I don't want it anymore, but I don't know how to say it out loud. And then little things start happening. Like I fell and fractured my elbow, and then I had another like small, I can't even remember, but it was a physical. And so every time something would happen, it would affect my ability to adjust. Chiropractic is a very physical
Mm-hmm.
career, and I wasn't getting the messages. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
getting the messages because here's the truth. Like, what next? What am I going to do? Like, I didn't have that answer.
Right.
And so apparently I was taking too much time because God has said what he has said.
Mm-hmm.
And I apparently wasn't listening. And so then I have a cycling accident that ruptures all of my hamstrings on my left side off of the bone that you sit on, right? So I need surgery. And what I didn't realize is just how emotionally traumatic that was. So not only do I need surgery, but the associate doctor that I had employed had quit 2 weeks before my accident.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm alone in my practice. I have all of these patients that need to be seen, and now I am unable. I literally went for a Sunday morning ride because I'm a cyclist. I cycled 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week, for years, and it was fine. And now all of a sudden, here I am in this situation, and I don't know what to do. And I am emotionally just bereft. Like I feel like I have hit a wall.
Yeah.
And so the surgeon says you have 10 weeks that you need to rest, recover, and rehab. And I was like, Doc, you got 5. And he was like, that's not how it works, right? And so I go back to work after 5 weeks because what else am I going to do? Because this is my sole income. This is how I support
Right.
said aviation student, in college. And this is how I pay my bills. And I am a divorced person now. I don't have any other source of income. And all of my eggs are in this basket.
Yeah.
So yeah, Doc, I'm going back to work. And so I do. And then, a week later, 2 weeks later, because I see a lot of pediatric patients, one of my pediatric little girls is running around. She trips me by accident. I'm laying on the floor, and I look up, and I can see all of my patients in the other rooms waiting for me to come in and fix their pain. And I'm in searing pain. I'm in pain because I came back too earlier. I've ruptured my one of my tendons in my rotator cuff of my opposite arm because I'm overcompensating with my upper body because I don't have my lower body strength. And so there's all these things. And what I hear very clearly in that moment is God going, So now what? How much more? And I decide in that moment that enough is enough. And I decide I'm going to stop acting as if I have no other options and start asking what's possible. And what became possible is me closing my practice, selling everything, nearly everything that I owned, putting the remainder in this little storage. My youngest is at college. The other two have already moved out. I'm in the best possible position to go out and figure out who is Naima without all the titles. Who's Naima without all the labels?
Without
Who's
the
Naima
mom, the
without
doctor, the
all of it? And so I ended up picking up an empty passport and going and traveling around the world by myself, 13 countries in 15 months. And it was one of the greatest and most scariest and most needed experiences of my entire life.
Wow.
So as you're traveling, what did you learn about yourself? Because I'm feeling like this is where the big reinvention is occurring. You had the other significant one, and now more in your adulthood, this is where the big reinvention came. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I spent 9 of those months in a pretty, what I would call, pretty intensive coaching program. And it was something that came up. So, what I decided in the very, very beginning, from somebody who has an empty passport and is choosing to go out and do this thing, what I decided was that I was not going to live in fear, because you can only imagine when I told people, they were like, the hell? Like, why would you, what, right? Like all of this sort of stuttering and stammering and speechlessness around, like, are you sure? And all of this fear that was sort of coming at me. And what I decided was that I was not going to live my life in fear. I wasn't going to experience what this next season looked like for me through a lens of somebody else's fear, my own adopted fear, whatever it was. That's not how I was going to show up. So I decided in that moment, when I was purchasing the very first one-way tickets to Cuba, that I was going to tune in as intimately as the most intentionally to my intuition, because I was 100% clear that my intuition would never leave me astray. And so as I was moving about the world, what I decided was that always move and lead with your intuition. And I just knew that God was whispering to me through all of those, intuitive moments. And it was a wonderful journey. And so when the opportunity came up to do this coaching program, it was an immediate yes. My intuition said, absolutely. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And then as I'm in this really intense program for all of these months, what I realized is that people weren't coming to me, to my chiropractic practice, because they wanted adjustments. They wanted the coaching, because what I had been doing for years, that felt very frustrating because I could only do it one patient at a time, was I was coaching. I was like, what are you most excited about? What is the thing that's moving you right now? What season are you in? Or what are some of the roadblocks that are happening? Like, why aren't you pursuing this? These are the conversations we're having, and watching people cry and sob and break down and have these moments on this chiropractic table. When I was in this coaching program, I was like, I've been doing this for
Right.
so long. So what does this new part of me, what does this look like? How could I take all of these skills, that understanding about health and wellness from the inside? how could I take living holistically and vegetarian, veganism, and having herbalists and midwives and birthing my children at home, and emerging into a midwife and helping other moms do the same thing. Like, how could I take all of these different versions of myself and make that be in service to what my heart is calling for me in this season? And the big reinvention, what I learned about myself is that everything is valuable. What I had determined at some points were mistakes or wrong turns or wasted time all turned out to be in service to a greater good. Like, you're going to need these lessons that you learned along the way. You're going to need these skills that you're going to pull from 3 decades ago in this season. And it all turned out to be the most valuable information and wisdom. I was like, oh, thanks, God.
It's interesting because I remember when, the husband left and I'm struggling and I'm like, why am I going through this? And I made a conscious decision to be aware of the lessons that I learned. And 15 years out, I'm thinking I'm stronger, I'm better, my kids are strong, I love, and even the tough parts you can learn from. Just like how you had to be on your back in pain to hear. So,
Yeah.
what just overview of some of the countries you visit and any highlights of anything off the wall or crazy that happened?
So some of the things, I did not share all the things with my children and some of the things that I was doing because there was no way that they were going to approve. I did have my location on for them at all times. I will share a couple of things. So Switzerland, living the majority of my life in California, having been in Utah and Colorado and Arizona, I thought I knew what mountains were. Of course, I know what mountains are. I've seen mountains. I've been on mountains. I don't ski, but I know what mountains are. I've been there. I'm a hiker. I no, you don't.
Right.
No, you have no idea until you go to the Swiss Alps and you were like, what? What? Like, they were so large. I had no context for them. Like, I could not. It was almost as if my eyes would not believe what was being observed.
Right.
That they were so ginormous that I was just wow. And so one of the things that I decided early on was that I was going to embrace that whatever the yes was that was in front of me. And when I got to Cuba, so I'm going to rewind for just a minute before we get to Switzerland. When I was in Cuba, it took me exactly 8 hours to figure out this wasn't it. And I was devastated because I was supposed to be there for 3 months because the original plan was 3 countries, 3 months at a time. And then
Right.
the last 3 months of this year that I was going to spend traveling, I would decide at that point. But I was supposed to be in Cuba for 3 months, 8 hours, 8 hours. I was like, this is, and I once again, I feel like this moment of what am I going to do? I told all these people, I have all these expectations. People think that
Right.
I'm going to do this. And this is what I said. And it turned out through a conversation with a dearest friend that I get to choose. So what? It doesn't work. Make a choice, like change up. And so Kamal, my oldest, calls that my reverse Uno trick because I was like, yeah, no, I'm leaving. And so at the end of the week, I left. And I say that to say that that moment was necessary in Cuba because I had this plan and then I just decided that doesn't work. And so whatever the next yes is. So I wanted chocolate. I wanted like really good chocolate. And where do you get really good chocolate? In
Swiss.
Switzerland, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, so what does it look like to go to Switzerland? And I was like, well, I'm going to be in Italy anyways. My ancestral origins,
Mm-hmm.
at least part of them. And I was like, well, I will take a train and I will go there. But I didn't, very loose. And so here I am in Switzerland. And if you all, excuse me, in Italy, and if you all have not been to the Damanhur, the temples, the underground temples in northern Italy, please go. All of your audience, please go. It is the most magical place that you can ever imagine, and I feel like nobody knows about it, and I just happened to find out from a friend. So here I am, and I meet this couple, and this couple says that they live in Switzerland, and I was like, oh, I want to go to Switzerland, and they were like, come on down. And I said, okay. And so I got on a train. I met this couple once. We spent a couple hours together on a tour. And I was like, sure, I'm going to go. So it's late. They've got some storm. It's getting dark. I'm on a train. I'm traveling in Switzerland. I have no idea where I'm going. I don't speak the language. There's no cell service. And I don't know. And the stop that I'm going to is like the last stop. And I don't know, like, was there a language, like, are they going to be there? Because I can't text them. I can't confirm. I'm going to get off at this
Mm-hmm.
train in dark in the middle of nowhere. And I'm not 100% sure. And the fear starts rising up as we're going stop by stop by stop. And it's getting darker. And then I get off and they're not there. And it's dark and nobody speaks English. And it's like in the middle of nowhere. It's like this little tiny town. And all of a sudden I think this is what everybody else was trying to tell me. Like, this is what I shouldn't do. And oh my God. And I'm winding myself all the way up. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see the husband. And here he comes. He's like, I'm so sorry. I had to work late. Here I am. And it turns out to be the most incredible. I think I was there for 7 days and I met incredible people and went on to do like this trauma workshop. And like, who knew none of it was possible if I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't just said, I want to listen to my intuition and I want some chocolate. And then that led me saying, well, I want a croissant. Where do you get croissants? We're going to go to France. And so then
France.
I went and did that just because. Just
Wow.
because.
Mm.
Wow. That I gotta applaud you, girl.
Yeah.
Because Judy and I, we travel a lot together, and I tell her, I'm not going to do anything abroad that I wouldn't do at home. I'm not going on a motorcycle. I'm not, and I'm just kind of out of fear. And as a mother, we tell kids not to do stuff, and then you find, yeah, I met a couple. I'm going, you don't know if you're meeting a bunch of swingers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Not that
Or
there's
worse.
anything wrong with
Or
that.
serial killers.
Or
Or serial
serial killer.
killers.
Yeah, but I applaud you for that. Now, all of these lessons lead you now to where you are. What
Yeah.
is it that you're doing currently?
Yeah. So when I was thinking about, because everybody kept saying that you're going to write a book and it's going to be like the Black version of Eat, Pray, Love. And while I knew that there was another book on my heart, what came to be very evident was that it wasn't a book about me traveling. It was really embracing an idea that had come to me, that you don't have to choose one thing or the other thing, that you can choose any and all things. And what that meant to me is a phrase that I started using in some talks that I was giving, and before I left. And that is that whatever it is that you are in pursuit of, whatever it is that your heart desires, like for me, what it comes down to is wanting every damn thing. And what we all, I think at the end, what we want and desire for ourselves is the same, is every damn thing. And so what I decided was that the book was going to be called Every Damn Thing, Your Disruption Manual. And in starting
I
to
love
write
that. I
that
love
book,
that. Your
yeah,
disruption man. Every
Mm-hmm.
damn, what can you be? Every damn thing.
every damn,
Mm-hmm.
Love
yes.
it.
And so when I was in the midst of writing this book, I was working with a business strategist, because I was trying to figure out. I was like, okay, so we're not going back to chiropractic. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we can't physically, we can't. And so what does that look like? And so I was working with this business strategist coach, and so what we had come up with, and she was helping me sort of outline, and we were talking about the book, and she was like, so the business. And so she sends me this contract, and for her and I to work together, and the contract has on there every damn thing, like it's my company. And I was like,
Mm.
oh no, I'm sorry, Mia, that's wrong. And she was like, oh, I went to your website and I saw it and I thought it was that. And I was like, no, that's the website for the book Raised as a Lie. That's like different.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a talk that I gave, and now I want to write this book about it. And as I'm explaining it to her, I can hear myself, and then all of a sudden I'm like, but that's the name of the company,
Yeah.
isn't it? And
Right.
she was like, that's the name of the company. And so I started this company called Every Damn Thing, and
Mm.
it is a coaching and personal development company for Black women over 40 who are business leaders or entrepreneurs who are stuck in their own success journey,
Yeah.
and whatever that looks like for them. And my role is just helping them see the barriers, whatever it is that's blocking them for who they are becoming, and helping them design their next evolution. And it's perfect because it utilizes everything that I have done, and
Mm-hmm.
wisdom that I've
Every
accumulated, and
damn
it
thing
gives
that you've, yeah.
every damn
Mm-hmm.
thing. And it's just this beautiful, wonderful like moment where you go, I see what you did there, God.
Mm-hmm. Now
Right.
tell me, the book hasn't been published yet.
No, I'm still writing
Uh-huh.
it, as a matter
But
of fact.
but
Yeah.
you've started the coaching
Yeah.
aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in
Yeah.
person or is it online?
So I have been doing both. I have been doing in-person coaching, one-on-one coaching, and also virtually. So I have a group coaching program that I launched earlier this year that has been really, really great, called 90 Days to Rise. And that has been a lot of fun. And, we're getting ready to launch another cohort in July. And, you know, gathering together, Black women from varied backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
and business, levels and stages has been really, really great, because ultimately, I think that when people think about reinvention, that it has to look a certain way, and it's not my way. It's not burning it all down and
Mm-hmm.
hopping on a plane. But what really reinvention is pivoting, but with purpose and clarity, and having a coach to be able to walk you through
Mm-hmm.
that, was invaluable for me. And what now I get to do is sit in that seat and help women also see the greater part of where they are and where they're headed. Because oftentimes when we get to this age, what I didn't realize is how many women really believe that their best years are behind them.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
couldn't be further from the truth,
Yeah.
and
So
being able
true.
to
Just
help
getting
women
started,
see that.
babe. Just
Yeah.
getting started.
Yes,
So if
yes.
somebody wants to find your book, how can they get your book?
Yeah, everything that you can find now is on
Okay.
everydamnthing.org.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Great.
Yes,
Well,
And
I
yes.
that's
mean,
how people can reach out to you as
uh-huh.
well. If
Yeah.
we have a listener who's like, "Ooh, I'd like to do the 90 days to rise,"
Uh-huh.
they would be able to contact you via your website.
Yes, everydamnthing.org. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at I am Dr. Naima.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Well, I mean, we could just do a section on travel. We could just do a section on
Identity.
yeah, I mean,
Please.
you're chock full of podcast episodes, girl.
Yeah, we might be calling on you for something else.
But this has been such a great discussion. And, you know, the thing is, the beauty about being women of a certain age is had stuff happen to you when you're 25, you wouldn't have been open to receive it. So, I mean, keep growing, keep evolving, keep teaching. You are so loved and so valuable, and you have so much to give. And I can't wait to see how you continue your evolution. This has been fabulous.
Yeah.
I thank you so much. You both, you know, having your podcast and really speaking to us in the season that we're in, and just honoring that with, you know, all of the laughter that you all bring and the joy. And it's so nice. I find myself smiling and laughing along with you, you know, as you talk to your guests and really just uplift us. So thank you for allowing me to be part of the conversation.
Oh gosh, it's
our
been my
pleasure.
pleasure.
And Naima, I just want to share that there is this very calming grace about you. Like just sitting in your presence calms me, soothes me. The way you speak, the way you hold yourself, the way you motivate and empower others. I'm feeling it. And I so appreciate it. And I'm thinking, do I have time in July to join this group? Because your spirit is just, for me, just feels like peace. So thank you for sharing a little bit of that with us this morning. Thank you for doing the work that you do.
You're not gonna make me do an ugly cry this morning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That is such a huge compliment. And, you know, thank you. Thank you. Because, you know, when you see in other people, like the things that I admire in you all, and having you reflect that back, it is a huge compliment. And my goodness, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, to our TUSOCA audience, we want to thank you for joining us and Dr. Naima this morning. It's been a pleasure to bring her to all of you, and just being able to have this conversation. So again, we would love comments, feedback, email us, you know, just reach out to us. And Candy, why don't you tell folks how they can reach us?
TwoSocaPodcast@gmail.com. We are on Instagram at Two Sisters of a Certain Age. We're on YouTube, Two Sisters of a Certain Age.
Okay. All right. So again, Naima, thank you. It's truly been an honor. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
No Longer Network.